Welcome to Dark Whisper Society. Today I got classic horror story for you by horror author Dark Monarch. If you enjoy horror stories, please consider subscribing to Dark Whisper Society so you won't miss any of new stories. Thank you. Now, enjoy this chilling ghost story. The Bellmaker's Widow. Chapter 1. The Tolling of the Void. Setting the stage. The year is 1888. Elias Thorne, a young, skeptical journalist from London, arrives in St. Jude's Cleft, a village perpetually shrouded in coastal fog. He dismisses the legend as quaint folklore, eager to write an exposé on local superstitions. The village church, with its prominent, slate-gray bell tower, is his first stop. The legend and the lure. Elias speaks to the elderly innkeeper, Mrs. O'Malley, who recounts the tale of Silas Thorne, the Bellmaker, a distant, uncanny relation to Elias, she notes, and his wife, Ilara. Mrs. O'Malley describes the night Silas died. A freak storm, the largest bell, the Redeemer, crashing down. A righteous toll for a sinner, she mutters. She describes Ilara's descent. The grief, the pact whispered to the churning sea, and the subsequent, impossible tolling of the church bells. Midnight, 3:33 a.m., always when the belfry was locked. That night, Elias settles into his room, mocking the notion of spectral bells. However, precisely at 3:33 a.m., a chillingly clear sound pierces the thick fog. 3 slow, deliberate tolls from the church tower. It sounds close enough to be in a room. The first encounter. Ignoring a prickle of fear, Elias heads to the church. The main doors are locked tight. He circles the tower and looks up. High in the belfry, a faint light source illuminates a figure. A woman dressed in faded black lace, impossibly pale, with eyes that seem to absorb the meager light. She is perfectly still, staring out over the cliffs. As Elias watches, she slowly lifts a hand and points directly at him. The figure vanishes. Elias, sweating despite the cold, hears a final, single, mournful toll, and it sounds like it comes from beneath the ground. He retreats, unnerved. Chapter 2. The Scent of Salt and Dust. The Investigation. Elias spends the next day researching. He discovers that the local records are incomplete. Silas Thorne's death is recorded, but Ilara's is not. No body found, presumed drowned. He finds an old entry in the church log, written in a shaky hand. The great clapper of the Redeemer is gone, cut free by person unknown. Yet the bells ring. The dream of drowning. Exhausted, Elias falls asleep in the early evening. He is immediately plunged into a vivid, terrifying dream. He is standing on the precipice of the sheer cliffs, the fog thick and cold. Behind him, he hears the 3 slow tolls. He turns and sees Ilara, her face now close, whispering, "He waits for me in the deep." The ground dissolves. He is underwater, the cold crushing his chest. He can hear the muffled, distorted sound of church bells ringing violently from the crushing depths above him. He struggles, unable to surface. Elias wakes with a gasp, violently coughing. He tastes salt, and his pillow and shirt are damp. He looks down and sees a faint, distinct ring of salt water soaking the sheets. Seawater in his lungs. The missing clapper. The haunting has become physical, driven by terror and a need for answers. Elias breaks into the church's storage crypt. Tucked away in a dusty corner, he finds a heavy, tarnished piece of iron, the massive clapper of the Redeemer. It is tied with a length of brittle, old black lace. A chilling realization dawns. The bells cannot possibly ring. The ghost is not ringing them with a mechanism. She is conjuring the sound itself, an auditory hallucination powered by the pact. Chapter 3. The Pact's Price. The Widow's Lair. Armed with the clapper, Elias returns to the cliffs, drawn by a soft, insistent, internal ringing that only he can hear. The physical church bells are silent, but the phantom tolling is deafening in his mind. The twist revealed. He finds Alara at the edge of the tallest cliff, her back to him. She is not a translucent spirit, but a gaunt, corporeal woman. Her black dress is merely old, not spectral. The widow never died. She has simply been here, waiting for decades. She turns. Her eyes are not spectral voids, but filled with a horrifying, manic joy. "My love is coming," she whispers, her voice raspy. The tolls call him up. Alara explains the true pact. She didn't pledge to bring Silas back, but to replace him, to lure someone with a soul like his, the Bellmaker's distant relative, Elias Thorne, to the depths so that Silas's soul could be released and ascend. The disappearance. The bells Elias heard were not for Silas. They were Alara's tool to break the will of her victims. Every few years, when her grief and need became unbearable, she would find a new soul to lure, drawn by the sound of bells that no longer exist. The final toll. As Alara speaks, the internal bell ringing stops, replaced by the sound of the ocean surging. She points past Elias, and he follows her gaze. Walking toward them from the fog-drenched path is a figure, tall, waterlogged, dragging one broken leg, Silas Thorne, the Bellmaker, home from the deep. Silas looks through Elias, his eyes fixed only on his wife. He whispers, "My dearest, you rang for me." Alara smiles, a genuine, radiant, horrifying smile. She takes Elias's arm, her grip shockingly strong. "A fair exchange, my love." Silas takes the hand she is not using to hold Elias. The three of them stand on the cliff edge. The last thing Elias hears before he is dragged down is the loud, echoing sound of three perfect, slow tolls. The sound of the Redeemer ringing one last time, coming not from the tower, but from the crashing waves below. A year later, the next journalist who visits St. Jude's Cleft finds the innkeeper, Mrs. O'Malley, who shakes her head sadly. Another one gone. Walked right to the cliffs, they say, drawn by the bells that don't exist. She pauses. "Though I did see a new pale woman near the tower just last week. Looked mournful, she did, dressed in black lace, waiting for her love." Epilogue, news clippings. Fatal toll in St. Jude's Cleft. Bellmaker perishes in catastrophe. August 17th, 1845. The village of St. Jude's Cleft, already cloaked in its habitual coastal fog, was further enveloped in shadow this week by a tragedy of mechanical failure and divine judgment. Silas Thorne, the village's esteemed and singular bellmaker, was found crushed beneath his magnum opus, the recently completed 4-ton tenor bell, the Redeemer. The accident occurred late Tuesday evening during a sudden, violent squall, a ruinous collapse. Thorne, known for his stubborn dedication to his craft, had reportedly been working alone in the church belfry, securing the newly cast bell's mounting. Witnesses, primarily fishermen seeking shelter, reported a deafening, unnatural crack of thunder, followed instantly by a sound described as a final, righteous toll before a sickening, splintering crash. The subsequent morning revealed the grim scene. The great bell, which was to be the pride of the county, lay partially inverted on the wooden floor, the supporting beams shattered. Beneath the massive bronze was the body of Thorne. The bell's clapper, a piece of iron weighing near 200 pounds, was inexplicably severed from its mount and was missing from the scene. Authorities have ruled the death an accidental collapse due to the storm's intensity and possibly a hidden structural weakness in the old tower. The widow's sorrow. The tragedy is compounded by the profound grief of Thorne's wife, Alara Thorne. The couple was known for their close, if somewhat intense, bond. Since the event, Mrs. Thorne has been inconsolable. Local residents report seeing her on the cliffs at all hours, speaking in strained whispers to the churning sea foam, often carrying a heavy burden wrapped in black cloth. Innkeeper Thomas O'Malley remarked, "She has not slept, nor taken proper sustenance. She walks like a shade. I fear she has made a pact with the deep, for the sea is a harsh mistress, and it took her love. The uncanny tolling begins. Within weeks of the funeral, a new, unsettling phenomena has gripped the village. Despite the fact that the belfry is locked and the remaining bells are silent and still, residents have heard the distinct, heavy tolling of a bell during the deepest hours of the night. The times are chillingly consistent: midnight and, more frequently, the unholy hour of 3:33 a.m. The tolls are slow, 3 in number, and perfectly clear through the thick fog. A search by the parish vicar, Father Davies, confirmed the belfry remains sealed and empty during these occurrences. The folk of St. Jude's Cleft believe that Alara Thorne, driven mad by loss, is somehow compelling the sounds to ring, a desperate, ghostly plea to bring her husband back from the wet, dark silence. The tragedy of the Bellmaker has given way to the birth of a terrible local legend. The London Chronicle, Coastal Beat. 2. Fog and fear. Metropolitan journalist vanishes in haunted coastal village. November 25, 1888. The disappearance of Elias Thorne, a promising young investigative reporter for this paper, has sent a ripple of alarm through Fleet Street and exposed a chilling secret lingering in the obscure coastal village of St. Jude's Cleft. Thorne, 23, was dispatched to the area to write a skeptical piece debunking the local Bellmaker's widow folklore. He was last seen early Thursday morning, walking toward the treacherous, fog-shrouded sea cliffs. The reporter's last dispatch. Thorne's personal effects, recovered from his rented room at the Anchor and Ned Inn, paint a disturbing picture of his final days. His notebooks, initially filled with cynical observations, increasingly gave way to desperate, scrawled entries detailing unnatural occurrences. One entry, dated Wednesday night, is particularly alarming. The sound is impossible. The church bells are silent, the great clapper gone for 40 years. Yet at 3:33 a.m., the 3 slow tolls were clear enough to wake the dead. I saw her, a woman, pale and dressed in threadbare black lace, standing vigil in the belfry. It is not an illusion of light or fog. It is a malevolent presence, focused entirely on the cliff's edge. A later, almost illegible entry simply states, "Seawater in my lungs." She rang for me. The clues of salt and silence. Police Constable McLeod, leading the meager local inquiry, confirmed several unsettling details. Thorne's bedsheets were found damp, smelling distinctly of brine and cold salt. Furthermore, an old, heavy iron object, later identified as the notorious missing clapper of the 4-ton bell, the Redeemer, was missing from a locked church storage area. He went to the cliffs, McLeod stated plainly. We found his boot prints leading right to the highest drop and no prints leading back. The fog was thick as cold milk that morning. We suspect misadventure, but the locals, they whisper it's the widow's work. The legend's terrifying twist. The oldest records of St. Jude's Cleft confirm a deeply unsettling detail that challenges the traditional understanding of the Bellmaker's widow haunting. While the death of Bellmaker Silas Thorne is officially recorded, there is no record of his wife, Alara Thorne, ever dying or being buried. Her body was never recovered, and she was merely presumed lost to the sea after her husband's demise in 1845. This terrifying ambiguity suggests the ghost may be something far more tangible and far more dangerous than a mere spectral residue. The local lore insists that the bells are a lure, a summoning ritual. The disappearance of Elias Thorne, a man carrying the same surname as the original Bellmaker, marks the fourth such inexplicable disappearance near the cliffs in the past 4 decades, always following a period where the phantom tolls were reportedly heard with renewed intensity. The terrifying conclusion suggested by the fearful residents is that the elusive Alara Thorne, still bound to a decades-old pact with the sea, is not mourning her husband, but actively selecting and summoning replacement souls to offer the deep, ensuring her horrifying vigil continues and that her beloved Silas may one day find peace, or perhaps be released from his watery prison. The silence following Thorne's disappearance is louder than any bell. If you enjoyed the story, you can find much more in Dark Monarch anthologies available on Amazon and all major platforms. Links are in the description box. Thank you for your time. We'll meet again very soon.